For the crew of the corporate jet, November 10 Kilo Juliet, this was supposed to be a simple, routine stop. A quick refuel in Bangor, Maine, before crossing the Atlantic to France. But on the night of January 25, 2026, as a winter storm bore down, this airport would become the final stop. The crew would make a decision to depart into the heart of the storm. A choice that turned a standard flight into a horrifying disaster. What could possibly cause a state-of-the-art jet to flip over and erupt into a fireball before it even left the ground? The answer lay buried in the snow and in one critical warning that was never heard. You're watching MayDay Central, your source for high-quality air crash documentaries. We break down the how and the why of every disaster. Make sure to subscribe and comment your theories below. Let's dive into the investigation. The aircraft was a modern Bombardier Challenger 650, tail number N10KJ, a powerful and sophisticated business jet, designed to carry its passengers across continents in ultimate comfort. It was linked to a company registered at the same Texas address as a prominent personal injury law firm, Arnold and Itkin. That frigid Sunday, the jet flew from Houston to Bangor, a strategic refueling point for flights to Europe. It landed without issue around 6:09 p.m. On board were 2 pilots and 4 passengers, a team of professionals, including lawyers and event staff, all on their way to France for work. But as the Challenger was refueled, the world outside was transforming. A fierce winter storm was tightening its grip on New England. The temperature was plummeting, and a light, powdery snow began to fall, steadily cloaking the airfield in a blanket of white. For the crew of N10KJ, the clock was ticking, not just against their flight plan, but against the storm itself. Flying in winter is a battle against a single, relentless enemy: ice. Even a layer of contamination, as thin as sandpaper, can disrupt the airflow over a wing, destroying its ability to create lift. For the Challenger 600 series, this danger is magnified. It has what is known as a supercritical wing, brilliant for high-speed flight, but notoriously intolerant of any ice or snow. This isn't just a theory, it's a hard lesson written in the wreckage of previous crashes. The crew knew the danger. The timeline of what happened next reveals the immense pressure they faced. At 7:13 p.m., the jet moved to the de-icing pad. For nearly 20 minutes, it was sprayed with 2 fluids. First, a hot Type 1 fluid to blast off existing snow. This was followed by a thick, green, unheated fluid called Type 4. It clings to the wings like a shield, preventing new ice from forming. But that shield doesn't last forever. Its protection is measured in a holdover time, an estimated window to take off safely. This window shrinks rapidly, depending on the temperature and the type of snow. In the cold, dry, powdery snow falling over Bangor, with temperatures at 3 degrees Fahrenheit, that protective window could have been as short as 9 minutes. At 7:36 p.m., with de-icing complete, N10KJ taxied toward the runway. The moment the de-icing trucks pulled away, the clock on their holdover time began ticking down. And this is where a ghost story begins to unfold on the airfield. Another flight crew, piloting an Allegiant Air jet, was facing the exact same storm and making a very different decision. After their plane was de-iced, the Allegiant pilots did something critical. They performed a hands-on, tactile check of the wings. They felt that the powdery snow was not melting or sliding off, but was instead sticking directly to the de-icing fluid, contaminating the surface. They immediately reported this failure to ground control, aborted their takeoff, and returned to the gate. It was a stark, undeniable warning that the de-icing shield was failing. But in a cruel twist of fate, the crew of N10KJ almost certainly never heard this life-saving radio call. The Allegiant crew was speaking to ground control. By the time N10KJ was lining up on the runway, they were on a completely different frequency, talking to the tower. The warning vanished into the static of the storm. At 7:42 p.m., N10KJ was cleared for takeoff. The engines roared to life. 2 minutes later, the brakes were released, and the jet began its roll down the snow-dusted runway. Data and eyewitness reports paint a chilling picture of a takeoff that never happened. The Challenger jet hurtled down the runway, accelerating to a speed of 152 knots, nearly 175 miles per hour. But its wheels never left the pavement. Instead, more than a mile down the runway, the aircraft suddenly and violently veered hard to the right. While still on the ground, it began to cartwheel, flipping over before erupting into a massive fireball that lit up the night sky. The control tower immediately shut down the airport. Emergency crews were on the scene in moments, but the fire was far too intense. In the chaos, initial reports were confused, but airport officials soon confirmed the grim reality. All 6 people on board were gone. The routine stop had ended in the worst way imaginable. An accident like this isn't just a technical puzzle, it's a human tragedy. 6 lives, each with a family and a future, were extinguished. As the investigation began, the identities of those lost started to emerge, painting a portrait of a vibrant and successful team. The pilots were Jacob Hosmer, a corporate pilot recently hired by the firm, and 1 other crew member. The 4 passengers were professionals on their way to a work event in Europe. They included Tara Arnold, a lawyer and co-founder of a luxury travel company, Shawna Collins, an event planner whose daughter had spoken to her right before the flight, Nick Mastroscusa, a private chef and father of 3, and Shelby Kuyawa, a sommelier. They were a team, united by their work, their journey cut tragically short on that snowy runway. The National Transportation Safety Board's GO team descended on Bangor. Their job is not to assign blame, but to uncover the truth. The scene itself was a challenge. Continuing snowfall hampered their work, covering evidence almost as quickly as it was uncovered. Investigators focused on 3 things: the machine, the environment, and the human element. The most critical pieces of evidence were the 2 black boxes, the cockpit voice recorder, and the flight data recorder. Recovered from the wreckage, these devices held the secrets of the flight's final moments, the pilot's words, the aircraft's speed, and the control inputs. But for the NTSB, the story of a Challenger jet and icing problems was ominously familiar. 2 previous crashes haunted this investigation. In 2002, a Challenger 604 crashed in Birmingham, UK, after a thin layer of frost caused a fatal loss of control, killing all 5 on board. In 2004, another Challenger crashed in Montrose, Colorado. Investigators found the crew had failed to de-ice the wings before takeoff. 3 people died. In both cases, investigators discovered that even a tiny amount of roughness on the Challenger's sensitive wing could trigger a sudden, catastrophic roll. In Bangor, the evidence was pointing down the same tragic path. While we await the NTSB's final report, the evidence points to one overwhelming conclusion: a catastrophic loss of control caused by wing contamination. The key theory revolves around an asymmetric stall, when one wing stops flying before the other. Here is the most likely chain of events. First, the contamination. Despite de-icing, in the 27 minutes it took to taxi and begin the takeoff, the frigid, powdery snow likely recontaminated the wings. The unheard warning from the Allegiant crew is the smoking gun, proof that the de-icing fluid was failing in those exact conditions. Second, the takeoff roll. As the jet reached liftoff speed, the pilot would have pulled back on the controls. This increases the wing's angle of attack. But the contaminated wings, already compromised, could have seen their maximum lift reduced by as much as 33%. That meant the wings would stall at a much lower angle of attack than clean wings ever would. Third, the loss of control. Before the jet could even fly, one wing likely stalled, while still on the runway. If the left wing stalled, it would lose lift and drop. The right wing, still generating lift, would create a violent, uncontrollable rolling and turning motion to the right. At over 150 miles per hour on the ground, the pilots would have been fighting a losing battle. The aerodynamic forces were simply too powerful. They sent the jet skidding and flipping off the runway. The data showing a top speed of 152 knots followed by a sharp veer is perfectly consistent with this terrifying scenario. But the why goes deeper than aerodynamics. It enters the realm of human factors. Why take off when another crew had just aborted? This raises the question of get-there-itis, a dangerous mindset where the pressure to reach a destination overrides judgment. Investigators will look for any evidence of this pressure. Was there a tight schedule? Were the passengers anxious to get going? That 8-minute period between getting clearance and starting the roll suggests a crew possibly wrestling with their decision, racing a clock they may have already lost. The crash of N10KJ was not a single failure, but a cascade of events where layers of safety were systematically broken down. The unheard radio call from the Allegiant crew confirmed in real time that the de-icing shield, the very system meant to guarantee a safe takeoff, had become a contaminated trap in the unique powdery snow. This tragedy highlights the brutal physics of the Challenger's supercritical wing. Past investigations have shown that even a small amount of roughness can cause a wing to stall prematurely, leading to a roll that is not responsive to control inputs. The fate of N10KJ wasn't sealed in the air, but on the runway itself. At 152 knots, with one wing losing lift while the other generated it, the aircraft was subjected to an uncontrollable turning force that no pilot could overcome. This brings the focus to a powerful human factor known as plan continuation bias, or get-there-itis. In corporate and charter aviation, the pressure to complete the mission can be immense. This desire can create a form of tunnel vision, causing pilots to stick to a plan even as changing conditions quietly make it unsafe. The legacy of the 6 people lost in Bangor is a stark and vital warning written in fire and ice. It proves that holdover times are not guarantees, and that in certain conditions there is no substitute for a physical, hands-on check. It is the ultimate reminder that sometimes the most courageous and professional decision a pilot can make is the one to stay on the ground. This investigation is still developing, and the NTSB's final report will surely bring more details to light. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from this tragedy? Let me know in the comments below. And if you value these in-depth analyses of aviation safety, consider subscribing for more.